I was such a skeptic when I was at the event where I met you and I met Steven, and but I felt like I needed to move ahead. I kind of had to humble myself and what I was feeling. And this has been the best decision I've ever made. So thank you.
I'm super pumped today to talk to a person who is mid-move, Dale Wilsher. Dale, how are you doing today?
Hey, Shane, doing well, hanging in.
You somehow managed to unpack your glasses, your pearls, your outfit. We found a room that had a wall with some light coming through a window, and we're good to actually do this today, right?
Right. Of course, I'll be packing my house in my pearls while I finish it up.
Jocelyn would totally be packing her house in her pearls. That's exactly what she would do. Yeah, isn't moving like the craziest thing? Like moving, it's like one of those things like you don't realize how much stuff you have until you try to take it with you somewhere. Like, right? Did you all pack your own house or did you hire movers? Like, what happened?
We are packing our own house because my husband rehabs houses. So he's got a whole labor team. So he's like, we'll just do it. We'll have them do it. We'll do it, which is a nightmare, of course. So
it's always a nightmare.
It's kind of like having children. You're like, I forgot how hard this was. What was I thinking?
Right. We moved here in 2016. So that's like what, 7 years ago? I think the worst blessing and curse on the planet Earth is a massive amount of storage space. So I've got this like barn on one side of my property and it's like 3,500 square feet. And I went in there the other day because I was going to, it's summer. So I was going to go try to get the jet skis out and get them de-winterized and stuff. And I was looking around. I'm like, I can't get to the jet skis. They're in the very back of this stupid garage. And I was looking over and there was literally boxes still unpacked from when we moved here. We just threw them out there in 2016. I'm like, why do we own that stuff? Why can't we get rid of these things?
Right. I know. Built-ins are a nightmare when you're moving. They're awesome any other time.
Okay. So I know what you're thinking, guys. Well, does Dale have an online business about moving companies? No, that is not what we're here to talk about today. We're just off on a total tangent. So Dale, let's catch the listeners up. Tell them about you, tell them about your background, and tell them a little bit about what we've built online in the last few months together.
Yeah. So I'm a coach. I've been a coach for the last 10 years. So I'm an ICF certified life and leadership coach. I also do a lot of career coaching. I have primarily worked with women. I'm also a keynote speaker. It's been my greatest source of marketing. It's one of my favorite things to do is speak, but it's a great way to also then find people who want coaching, because as far as like and trust, they get to know me a lot better in a talk. So I do talks, and then I've started creating courses. I started that a couple of years ago, group coaching, things like that. So my brand is called Your Authentic Personality. I have an expertise in understanding people's innate strengths, and especially helping women, since I work with them primarily, and we're the most likely to more understand and reveal and then change a personality mask. We so quickly succumb to the pressure to be all things to all people at all levels of leadership and business ownership and all these things. So I really help people understand who they truly are. And then I have a whole program of living your life to the fullest as far as understanding your values, your purpose. We do purpose statements. I look at people's emotional regulation, their boundaries, which is all about definition, their limiting beliefs, anything that holds you back from your fullest life or your truest work. So that's in a nutshell what I do.
So is it yourauthenticpersonality.com? Is that your website? Yeah. Okay. So yourauthenticpersonality.com. I love this space. I'm so into this space. And like you said something really interesting there. As a keynote speaker, that's where you get like a lot of your leads from. I've really realized lately, especially, how important it is to have that keynote in your back pocket kind of mentality, because your story is your greatest form of marketing. And then eventually, after you tell your story enough, like your students' stories will be your greatest form of marketing. And I was thinking about this the other day, like every dime I have ever made has been because I learned how to tell my story, like on a stage, I like to say on webinars, stages, and long form sales pages, right? Like I go out and like tell my story. And it's like, I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and he was saying like, it's so funny, like people think they don't have a story or they can't tell their story on a webinar or a stage or something like that. And that's just not true. And I laughed because I was like, dude, my story is about a guy looking for a new daycare center with a bad boss mowing his grass. It's not like my story was like I repelled out of the space shuttle Endeavour and I landed in the Sahara. Like, it's not like it's something like that. It's just like, no, it's just, here's my story. This is what it produced. And if you tell your story, you can produce this too. So have you really, do you find that that's where you feel the most powerful? You feel like you're making the most impact is like on a stage or being able to tell your story to people?
Absolutely. I mean, we all love a real story. I mean, we're sick of fake. And in the business world, because I used to speak in the faith-based world, and then I transitioned a few years ago into the professional, marketplace. And that's where a lot of the speakers are not bringing their real life stories. So people are hungry for it. And I do find, because I ask people about their purpose all the time, like, what's your purpose? And sometimes people will say people, which I'm like, no, your purpose is not a who, because if they could leave or graduate or die, they're not your purpose. They're recipients of your purpose. And same thing with jobs and promotions and businesses. Those are not your purpose. They are how you deliver it. So I find that it's a really compelling thing. 4 out of 5 Americans want to know their purpose. And so your purpose is your story. It's not only, I told this whole thing about my daughter in one of my keynotes about leveraging your why and how powerful it is. So my why, which is my story. And it's usually like something you're pretty kind of embarrassed about or ashamed of, because it's something you didn't get and now you want to get. It's what you really have a strong desire for. And in the purpose-driven life, Rick Warren says that, your life message will come out of your deepest hurts, the things you're most ashamed of and most embarrassed about. So that's part of it. So my why is about how I did not tap my potential. Some things in my family of origin kind of held me back as a woman, and a really, really unfortunate toxic marriage I was in to somebody with addictions that added to it. My own mindset, playing small and nice, just all that stuff held me back. So I'm all about potential. So I tell a story about my third daughter. I have 4 daughters, Caroline, who was a train wreck. And I kind of set it up because at that time I was a single mom with full custody of all 4 of my daughters, which very rarely happens. And it was a shoot show. I mean, it was, so she was rebellious and defiant, but also everybody was struggling emotionally. So I had 3 suicide attempts in my daughters. One in February. My oldest, who was 17, attempted 5 days later. My this one, Caroline, that I'm mentioning, she tried, and it's called the domino effect. And then a year later, on the anniversary of that month, she attempted again. So, I mean, we were heavy duty into everything. And that's what's hard, is when people are broken, they're also, hardened and a mess. And so Caroline was caught stealing this $800 iPhone from a girl's gym locker at school. And I am like,
oh my gosh.
So there we are with the parents of the best friend that she did it with, sitting in the assistant principal's office. And they're all like, what can we do to make this go away? And they look at me because I'm sitting solo. Everybody else has got a team member. And I was like, please throw the book at her, because I knew if we let this go, we would further distance her from her potential. And this is kind of all we had left. And of course, they did not pursue it. They felt so sorry for me. So I had to turn her in to the Boulder District Attorney's Office. So she didn't talk to me for months. And everybody at school, of course, you can imagine, this is all over social media. Her sisters who are away at college, they're hearing about it through social media, not from me. And everybody's like, she's a drug dealer. I'm like, oh no, she's just a thief, for gosh sake.
That would kill in any room in America. If they thought she was a drug dealer, and I said, she's just a thief. When you do a keynote like that and you tell a story like that, and of course, there's a whole process that you have to be able to share your story. Like, I share some pretty traumatic things in our life on stage, which you've heard me talk. So you know that, like, I'm super open and authentic with all our stories, because everyone in that audience is feeling those things. Like, everyone's feeling their kid. Like, how many times have we all looked at our kids and thought, man, that kid has so much potential. They're so good, but I'm not sure if they're going to end up president of the United States or leader of a prison gang. Like, somewhere in between is where this child is going to fall. And when you tell your story, it doesn't even matter if it's necessarily about your stuff. Like, my story it gets to how we started an online business eventually. And it does definitely get to that point. But the whole first part of the story is just like this this roller coaster of life that we're all on. And when you build that rapport relationship, and it's almost like, like you just sharing that story with me, like I felt you sitting in that principal's office. I felt the heaviness of that. And it was like, I feel more affinity to you now, even than I did before we started recording, just because of that. And it makes it super powerful. You can sell anything online. You can even sell memberships with your story. So you've done the one-on-one coaching. You like that transition? You've done the one-on-one coaching. You've done the group coaching. You came to one of our events and I introduced this big concept of memberships. What made you want to do a membership? You've launched your membership. Tell us about that and how many members you've got. And like, what are you hoping to accomplish with a membership versus like the one-on-one coaching? Like, why do you want to grow this thing?
Yeah, the membership has always been something that's kind of sat at the back of my mind for the last couple of years, because I've known that it was something that could create more passive income. And my goal has always been to franchise myself enough that I could reach more people. One-on-one coaching gets pretty pricey for a lot of folks. Yep. So to be able to have opportunities to reach people, a book is one thing, but a membership is living and active, and it gives me the ability to engage. But I really had no idea how to go about it. It's kind of like when I put together my first digital course, like I had no idea what kind of giant project that would be. It was, that was huge. And then the other thing is the last 10 years, I speak to people who are trying to be everything to everyone. So I'm all about their definition and their distinction, but that's been my problem too. So I've created so much content over the last 10 years that I've always known that a membership would be a great place to provide it for everyone, to have it lived in. Courses, the content, the videos, my talks. I mean, so many things. So I've always felt like that was going to be the ideal place for it. But I feel very comfortable in one-on-one coaching. I feel very comfortable on a stage, but this was the place that I feel like I'm really putting myself out there for this.
I can see you on stage, you're doing your thing. I mean, when we're on stage, we're talking to dozens, hundreds of people. And it's like, that's where I feel the most put out there. But you're like, no, the membership is like, holy crap, this thing could be 1,000 people someday looking at me like every day of the week looking for like what does that mean, putting yourself out there into the membership, the fears that it brings up?
I think it's like, so I launched this thing April 1st. It's very new. We're not quite 2 months in. And I did it at a talk that I had, and I got one member. What am I going to do with one person? I thought, that's like, thank the Lord for her. I mean, like her picture is going to be, with the first dollar bill. Like, I'm so grateful for her. Like, I didn't even know her. I figured other people who knew me, but that feels like just showing up. And then it's a little bit like, looking embarrassed, like nobody came to my party kind of thing. So that's like, at 15, that was my first, I'm like, I'm praying for 15. Those are the goals that I'm setting. And so now it's going to be the next level.
You got 15 members now. You're up to 15. You put your first goal.
So I've been working with Stephen, and I decided and talked, because there was so much I've had to do with, I've had some really huge talks also that I was preparing for. So I couldn't give it all to the membership. So we just decided that I wasn't even going to even put this out to my email list. We would just do it through these talks and kind of see what would happen. But what I'm finding is that's not a silver bullet. I mean, because when I get people into the email list, I've got nurture, onboarding campaigns, all that, but it's not enough to have them join. Is when I don't have that presence yet, or I haven't figured out how to dial that in. So that's some of it. So actually today or yesterday, we started a 5-day campaign where I'm putting it out to my email list. So this is the first time. So this will tell what the quality of my email list and how much they want a membership. And then after that, then I'll go back to doing more webinars, which I've been able to do well on those, but I haven't done really much marketing except, a 2-minute blurb at the end of my talks.
Wow. Okay. So I have a lot of follow-up questions to that before we start talking about strategy. Like, what I heard was you went to a talk, launched it, got your first member. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then it sounds like, if what I'm hearing you say is you went to other talks, and that's how you got the other 14 members, was do just your stage presentations. great?
I would say you, based on what I said, you would think so. But I also just got back, I've been coaching for a long time. So I followed up with a lot of people who I no longer coach with and said, hey, this is what I'm doing. And, they didn't want to get back into a whole nother one-on-one thing, but they were like, ooh, I would love to do this. And I'd love to know who you know.
Okay, great. Okay, so following that's actually really good that your one-on-ones would translate into that, because that's showing a lot of synergy already. And now you're just getting into your email lists. I want to go to there because then we can talk about strategies. You did say something there I want to touch on too. One pass is not going to tell you if they want a membership because it's consistent, prolific, relentless. You got to okay, we're going to do 10 passes before we really have enough data to even think about it, right? Yeah. So, but this is going to get the early people stirred. But that first customer you said was really amazing. You're going to hang her picture up in the Hall of Fame of your membership someday. That's why our first goal is always one, because if you can find one, you can find 101, you can find 1,001. But what did you learn from that first customer that made you say that? Why was that valuable? Was it just that they believed in you, or tell everybody how important that first customer really is and why you got to launch?
I think so. I think it is very validating. Because again, I just announced it. That was like a room of 120 at a women's conference. And to think, I knew several people in the audience because it was some of my local crowd. It was around here, but the person who joined was not somebody I knew. So I thought, okay. And that's where the talk vibes, right? That's where if they hear your values in that, they hear something. And that's, I will just finish also Caroline's story. So one of the reasons that story is powerful is because of all that stuff we went through. It introduced her to her why. And she just graduated from college, which I didn't even think, for years, I didn't think she was going to be gainfully employed during those times, but she just finished her undergraduate degree in criminal justice. And because her why.
That's amazing.
Isn't that
you can't write a story like that. You can't.
I know. Her why. And this is what I do for people. So many times. So this is what that client was interested in is you put words on what her why was. And I want you to do that for me. So her why is that she can see the good in bad people. It explains why she could ever watch scary movies when she was little, because that's a little dangerous if you see good in serial killers. There's all kinds of things that I do with people. But Carol, and it's her story, but it's also what she's passionate about, which is rehabilitating the reputation of people who've done bad so that they can turn around and do good. And that's the kind of thing that when clients tell me that what they want out of something, then that's what I want to deliver on. So I just think knowing that, and you don't always know what it is that someone is wanting. So I'm still trying to elicit from all my members, what do you guys want this to be? What do you want to walk away from? We're calling it a growth accelerator. It's called Elevated Authenticity. It's for women to help them rise in their careers and in their life and really be all they're meant to be. But I'm still kind of dialing that in so I can figure out the right language. I'm excited that I got her, but I want to get into her head and understand more.
I always tell all of our students, I'm like, man, listen, when you get the first client, you've got to treat them like they're paying you $20,000 a month. Really, even your first 20, those are your probably most important. Not because our business looks very different than the first 20 people that came through Flipped Lifestyle. So different. It's shocking, actually. Because we used to teach people how to make ebooks and sell them on for $20 a piece, and it's so different. But we spent so much time with those first people that they bent us. And it's analogous to if a meteor was coming toward the Earth and we shot a nuke at it just to knock it off its course. We're just trying to keep our first customers just keep bending our orbit into where we're really supposed to be. We're kind of letting the universe kind of guide us to where it's supposed to end up. And you got that. And that's so valuable. It's why people freak out when I'm like, you got to launch now, you got to do this as fast as possible. Get it out there. And they're like, gosh, but I'm not ready. And I'm like, no. You'll never be ready until you get the feedback from a couple customers so you're actually never going to be ready. So we got to launch so you can get to ready. You want to be ready? You have to put a product out there. Then you get to perfect it. I catch people in a trick in my seminars. I'm like, who here's a perfectionist? The perfectionists love to brag about being a perfectionist, right? And they all raise their hand, and I always get them every time. I'm like, oh, do you know the definition of perfectionism is to perfect something which already exists. So if you haven't put your thing out there because you're being a perfectionist, you're not really being a perfectionist. You're a procrastinator. And everybody goes, oh. The people that didn't raise their hand are like, gotcha, right? It's just like, I always get people with that. But like, now you get to perfect this thing. You get to mold it. You get to build it. And you've got these like 15, 16 people. And I love what you said about follow-up. Like, that's so important. Like, everybody sells mass marketing in online, which is the ultimate goal. You want to have an email list of 100,000 people and you're sending them emails every day and all that good stuff. But man, the fortune's in the follow-up, just personal reach outs. Everybody's got 20 people in their circle or someone they've acquaintanced or connected with that they can get into a membership. Like, you proved that, right? Like, all these are former clients right now?
A lot of them are, or people that have, I'm trying to look at my list. I would say a couple are new clients of mine, but that's also what I'm doing when I do a one-on-one. I'll say, of my 3 packages, the first one, you get a 1 month in the membership. So at least they get to test it out, because that's the smallest package. And then they get a little bit longer. But
what are you charging for this?
The retail right now is $97 a month.
Gotcha.
I did founding member for the first 15 at $50, as long as they stay in. And we can run some promotions and stuff. But I would say either most of these people, not all, were either in a class of mine or clients. So now I'm thinking, can we get beyond this?
Yeah.
I'm going to run out of clients at some point.
I love that price point. I mean, 100 people paying $97 a month, basically 10 grand a month. I mean, it's 120 grand a year, just sitting there making money every month. So great pricing, got members taking it. You can also do a slow roll. Like, you can have multiple beta groups. Like, you can say, after you get this first email launch, a great thing to do is, like, we want to get to 97 and we want to start moving toward that. Like, every month you can literally just go, hey guys, it's 49 right now. I'm raising it to 69 next month. And you get people in your list in, right? Then you have, hey guys, the current beta price is 69. I'm raising it to 79, 89, 90. You actually do like 3 or 4 rotating groups to start clearing out your list to get like up to 50 to 100 people, especially if you've already got a list. So you're starting the ball rolling like right now. Well, let's move into that a little bit. Like, so you got this email campaign going now, and we know we have traction. We know we have people that want this. It seems to be resonating. What are you doing in the 5-day sequence? Is it just an open close? Is it like a beta price? Like, how are you promoting it and pitching it right now?
Well, that's what I'm listening to you talk about, the slow roll. And I don't know how to back that up, but what Stephen and I decided to do, so maybe a little different, is to, is to move the price up to 97, and then only for my email list to offer a 40% off. We thought that felt extremely generous, and it's still a little bit higher. So it ends up being $58.20. So
that's what you're doing now. You're like, hey,
right now,
40%
for this week,
off,
5 days. So I have an email each day for 4 days. And then on Friday, I'm doing 4. So I imagine I'm going to get a lot of unsubscribes, but what the heck? So we're going to.
Nah, you won't. You'll be shocked at how few unsubscribes you get.
It's always a moving and active process, isn't it? People are coming, people are going. So I
love unsubscribes, because, like, to me, it's like, oh, thank you for telling me that I wasn't your cup of tea.
Right.
I'm glad that you got to go over and have a cup of coffee, because I want you to win. I want you to have whatever you want. If you don't like me, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. I'm just telling you, right? Get on out of here. So that's a good thing. Yeah. You want your sales and unsubscribes to equal, though. We need to be on either side of the bell curve, right? Cool.
Exactly.
All right. So when did that go out? Did it start yesterday? Today?
Started yesterday. It's I've been in my empty box of an office while packing up my kitchen. I have been writing emails. So just, a combination of things from the sales page and, just the promotion. And then we put a little bit of a countdown timer and added that. And I decided, because we've got the code that takes you straight to the offer. And I just decided for the next 5 days, because it's so new, I don't have much SEO on it. I changed all the buttons on the sales page to go straight to that 40% off offer. But it'll end.
Yeah, easy way to do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to back it out, like, too. Like, you can, because you're going to, like, you can what the way you would position that, what based on your language you just used is, hey, it's 40% off. We're raising it to 97. Cool. Drop that back out public. Let it be 97, right? You need to be on the email list if you're going to get discounts. And then like in June, like for example, you could attach a sale to like Father's Day or something, like have a Father's Day promotion, like, because you do a lot of like internal work. So you could even talk about that, like how issues like that, like trauma, mom stuff, dad stuff, how it does hold us back from being our authentic self, reaching our potentiality. So you can start telling stories in that vein. And then during Father's Day, you can say, hey, 35% off. So you can just give a little bit smaller discount each month as we roll the promotion until you get to really where you need to be, where you don't have to discount it to kind of get people to take it. Because right now we're just trying to get as many people in as possible so we can figure out who's going to quit. And then we talk to the quitters and say, why'd you quit? Now I know why you quit, so I can fix it, or I can just, I don't want you anyway. I want you to quit. And then, or you can get your people to you. So you can totally promote that out the same way. Yeah. Be super easy. But yeah. So what are your biggest challenges right now? I love this. I have multiple people in our community, Jody Moore, Brooke Castillo, Kathleen King, people who've been on the podcast before that people can go back and listen to. Very similar spaces. They're dealing with very similar issues with a different thing. Nikki Roush is another one that comes to mind. I'd love to introduce you to Nikki too. I think you all would be like best friends, because she has an awesome website called Sales Maven Society, and she helps women in sales break through glass ceilings, basically, by teaching them sales tactics. But very similar kind of vein. Like, I mean, you're clearly getting some traction here. So what are your biggest, now that you've got members, new fears, new obstacles, new challenges, they always come up every level. What are you struggling with right now? What do you think your next steps are? And like what questions do you have? Like, where would you need some support in that?
So much.
We got time. I'm here for you. We got time.
My fear is I'm a 15-hit wonder. There's my fear, right? That's it. That's all I got.
That's all there is. That's all you got. Let me tell you how preposterous that sounds. Okay. So you were so lucky that you just happened to find the only 15 people out of 8 billion on your first stay. They just happened to be in the first couple rooms. That 15 out of 8. But we found the needle in the haystack on the first swing, and that's all there is. Like, I'm being a little facetious here, but doesn't that sound preposterous?
Yeah.
No way, man.
Always mindset stuff, and that's the stuff.
So much.
So I think where I feel like I'm sitting now is because it's in the group that I'm in with Stephen and some other people. They're all like, yeah, don't wait. You just got to launch. I'm like, well, I actually need to get this set up on Kajabi first, or I can't launch. So I needed a little bit of time to get things set. So I'm still building that out, but I think I can get that populated pretty well, but it's taking me a little bit, because I would get notices from people in the membership like, how come when I went in and I clicked on the about section, it had another lady on there? I said, because I didn't know there was an about section, and now I'll have to add my stuff. But it's not that
stock photo.
Victoria somebody, and she has a whole coaching business. I'm like, okay. So, it's like
I've got a picture. This is no lie. I've got a picture in my living room, and it's in with there's like family pictures everywhere. There's all this other stuff. And then there's these random people, and you would think it'd be like my cousins or something. No, that's the picture that was in the frame when we bought it. So it's still in there. Right? Like that happens all the time, like on my website. Like what the funniest thing was, we shared a picture one day of a podcast with me and somebody else, and it was like featuring Shane Sams, and it wasn't even my picture. I don't even know who the guy was. We just used the wrong photo on the wrong social media post. So that's my brand, right? What is happening around here, guys? We need some quality control up in this mug before we do anything else. So true. Oh my gosh.
So I think I've got to figure out the amount of time I want to spend on that every week. I think I figured out what I'm speaking, because it was even hard to decide what days and times to set up those live trainings. I mean, that alone, I was like, well, I have some people available in the day. I have some people in the evening. I go to bed at 8:00 at night because I get up at 4 a.m. So I can't do these at night. So I feel like I'm getting a routine there, and if people don't like it, then they can let me know. But so far, everybody's been okay with it. But I think it's now the whole churning all the ads and the blogs and really building more funnels, because I've been launching different products and courses for so long. I need to just launch this. I need to establish a regular mastermind or webinar kind of schedule that is doable for me, because that's still a lot of work to get those slide decks together. And so do I do the same one each time? When you do life coaching, career coaching, there's a lot of stuff you talk about. So it can be, I'm trying to decide how many of those things. Do I do 6 different in a year masterminds?
This is a big question on memberships, is like, when do you do like live events? When do you do things like that? When do you do Q&As? Let's just like the most simple thing you can do in a membership is, hey guys, I'm going to show up weekly for a Q&A, and we're just going to talk about my courses or trainings. You can ask me questions, or you feel what coaching feels like, whatever it is, whatever it looks like in your membership. The best tip I ever had of this comes from one of my mentors. His name's Aaron Walker. And Aaron does, he does high-end masterminds, so like $600 a month. And like you get put into a group of 10 to 20 people, right? So it's like a really intense, it's amazing, but like it's intense. It's like you have to show everyone your financial like EBITDA and everything, and like really open, transparent. We're all going to know exactly what's happening, good, bad, and the ugly. So it's really cool. It's a really cool concept. But like when guys join, I'm like, how do you get guys like to all their schedules to line up? And he's like, we tell them when their schedule is, and they commit or they don't pay us. And I think I take that approach with our membership as well. I definitely want to give my members the opportunities to do things in the morning or the evening or whatever it is. I found that if you can just have things at like 12 o'clock p.m. Eastern and something every once in a while, 9 o'clock p.m. Every once in a while, not every week or anything, that covers the whole world, like all time zones. Like we have people in Australia, we got people in England, we got people all over the world, and like they can all hit those 2 times. I don't know why, but that's just worked really, really good. But just giving people a little bit of variety, but you pick. It's got to be your schedule first. And what will happen is, like, let's say you're like, I go to bed at 8 o'clock, never doing a night thing. I'm only going to do 8 p.m. or I'm up at 4 a.m. Maybe I'll do something at 6 a.m. I'll be an early bird special thing, right? When you declare what you want, you will draw in the people who will align with you. So don't ever feel bad for changing a schedule on your membership. Don't ever feel bad for declaring that this is the time that you're going to meet. Like that's how it has to work. And it's just like any other thing we do to exclude people, right? Like if we're trying to exclude a group of people, like we don't want people who do X in our membership. Hey, I don't want people that want 9 o'clock calls. There you go. That's it. Now what does that look like for you? 12 o'clock calls. Well, there's 8 billion people. We're still going to be able to find 100 people that there's going to be 100 people out there that love you and love, gosh, I'm so glad these are only at 12 o'clock. I hate feeling pressured to be here at 9 p.m. Right? So just own it. Do you like early morning stuff or do you like lunchtime stuff? Like when do you want to do it?
That's my quiet time. That's when my husband and I have our bulletproof coffee and we have our time. But morning is when I'm freshest. When I wrote my book, I realized that maker time for me needed to be in the morning and managerial time needed to be in the afternoon. Things that I run, even coaching, I can do in the afternoon. So
when do you start working?
I will usually start working about 6 a.m.
Cool. Also, too, like don't get trapped in your old agreements with yourself. Like you can say like, well, this is when I do management. So I block time too, right? But like sometimes that block time can change for something that's new and cool. Like you could have a cool gimmick where it's like, hey guys, we're so awesome in this community. We're so dedicated to being our authentic selves. We start the day authentically. And then like you could do your member calls at 7 a.m. and just get them over with, right? Like we're going to be authentic from the time we drink our bulletproof coffee, y'all. Right. So you still get up, you still have your bulletproof coffee, you still spend time with your husband, you still do all those things. And then, but like, then there's like a 7:30 call with your members before they go to work. Like you're going to work authentic. You're taking your kids to school authentic. Right. And just embrace it. This is a concept. Actually, you could use this in your speeches too. It's called permissions. And like, permissions is really important because you're giving yourself permission to be yourself. You're not asking the audience for permission. Like my permission is like, I come out whenever I talk and I say, hey y'all, you're going to figure out real quick. Shane Sams ain't like all these other speakers you've been talking about all day. You've been listening to. And like, it's not permission. It's permission for me to be like, look, y'all, I'm going to say y'all, I'm going to say ain't, I'm from the country. This is what's going to be for the next 45 minutes. If you don't like it, go to the bathroom. It's a great time for a break. If you do, sit down a spell. I got a story to tell. Right. And you could do that. And then you get what you want. I don't do member calls in the evening. That's my time. and your students get what they want because they're looking for someone to start their day with. Now, the people that don't, they're going to go away. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love that. Okay, that goes to a question I have, Shane, because so in the platform that I'm using, that all of y'all use, which I switched to make it easier to be able to do all this stuff.
Kajabi is the bomb.
I tell you, I love the look of it aesthetically, especially when it's
yes.
not, as long as I figure out the about page. But so there are those challenges in there, in the community section, and the last Q&A I did in my membership, I've only had 2 since we've only been going 2 months. They said, okay, what are these challenges? That sounds great. And I'm like, I have no idea. Okay, because I haven't gotten into those. So how could I use those as something because I can imagine running those like early morning calls, like come as you are, and then we're going to do something, whether we're setting our intention for the day or we're actually doing kind of goal things. Like, would that be something that you would use with that?
I keep it really simple. Challenging your audience to do something is more like something you're going to do over time. Like, for example, one of our team members has their own online business about health and fitness, right? So a challenge is used to unite the community in a common goal, not necessarily just to get together. So like we set up these challenges to be like, we're doing a fitness challenge this month. So she got everybody to buy in $10. So everybody would have a little skin in the game, right? Like you bet on yourself kind of deal. And then we're doing a challenge, but then a portion of the community will unite around that. And it makes it feels more like a community. Like sometimes Q&A can just get old. Like you need to do like challenges, fun stuff. We had a Halloween challenge one time, like best costume. It didn't even have to be anything related. And we did a Zoom with like 50 people and we were all dressed up. I was Bob Ross and my wife was a painting. Like that was our costume, right? So like, and then people came like dressed up as everything. It was bonkers. And so like, that's more like, okay, let's do a community event that's going to last multiple days and we're going to challenge them over time. And then the normal general way we hang out is more like through a general Q&A or a general get together. Or I love the intention setting. Like imagine a morning session where you set intentions as a group, so simple, and you highlight, maybe you just do a focus once a week or something, or every other week on someone's intention. Or you guide one person through an intention setting activity and then everyone declares their intention at the end. It's 30 minutes and everybody's super filled. Their cup is full when they leave. So that's a different thing. And I also like, keep it as simple as possible. Everything I do with my community starts with, okay, I turn on Zoom. What happens next? And I try to keep it that simple. Like I try not to overcomplicate it because I found the more complicated I make my community, the less people use the community. And when I simplify things in the community and it's literally just show up and they're not alone, that's where we start. That's when we have 100 people show up on a call or something crazy because they want simple. People don't want to overcomplicate it. They don't want to commit to a big, giant, nonsensical madness thing every single other week, right? Less is more inside of your community when you're doing a membership. Does that clarify that?
I think so. I mean, I'm not like, I hate social media. That's why I like email marketing. So I have never been a huge fan of like Facebook groups. And I feel like that's another piece of this that is part of my limiting belief set is that, since I don't go for it, I'm not exactly the right person to lead this. So the community piece on the calls, it's easy. I do those, but it's the forums or understanding how to get people to engage with one another that I feel a little bit underprepared or.
So this is the answer to that question. And it'll actually change your mindset about how to focus on this. You can't get them to engage with each other. You have to get enough people where they engage with each other by default because it's a numbers game. So now just take all your focus off of, man, I've got to drive conversation every minute of every day. Do you have to put some stuff in there and try to do that? Of course you do, but that's like a schedule. Like, what am I going to post each day? The answer to that question in the beginning is always get to 100 members. When you get to 100 members, 20% of them will join and start talking to each other. And then when you get 1,000 members, it'll be 200. When you get 2,000 people, it'll be 400. Like that's where engagement comes from. It's almost like a flywheel. Like right now, when you start your membership or an online business, you're turning the gear. And like me and Jocelyn, when we started our forums initially, we used to like freak out. And we would go have full on 20 reply threads talking to each other. because we just wanted people to see replies on all of the things that they logged in. But if you clicked on any of them, I'd be like, hey, what's your best email subject line this week? And you would open it, and it would be me and Jocelyn for like 20 threads, like talking to each other, just trying to get them. We'd be tagging people and trying to get them to come say something. But when we got to like 100, 200 members, we realized, actually it was around 120. We realized we started logging in every day and people were talking to each other, or at least replying to our questions. And then as that got bigger, people started talking to each other. So shift the focus. Like, you don't have to like engage and be the best content creator and be the best communicator and, stir the pot all the time. Just post things that are relevant until people talk. But man, focus all your energy on getting 150 people and they will talk. There's going to be somebody in there that's logging in every day. Okay.
All right. Love it. Love it.
All marketing all the time. And then I want to talk to you about webinars, because this is actually a really big thing I'm doing right now. I think my best talent as an entrepreneur has always been the ability to craft a story. That's honestly why we're so successful, is because Joss and I both are really good at telling our story, I'm really good at telling other people's story because I've crafted mine so much, right? And you are very well spoken. You've got speaking chops. You've got that stuff. The webinar strategy is where it's at, especially since you've got an email list. Like, you're going to pick up members when you do these email campaigns, but getting 100 people on a webinar is where you're going to pick up 20, 30 people at a time, right? Because a $97 offer, you can even give people like, hey, 50% off the first 3 months, just to get them in the door. Like, the pitch is so easy for a membership on a webinar. So I think I heard a couple fears of your webinars. Number one was when are you going to do these? Again, you go to bed at 8 o'clock, you got other things going on. And then I heard a what, like, what do I talk about in each presentation? What do I talk about? Do I do a different webinar every month? Was that a couple of the questions? And did you have any more on top of that?
So yes, I've been doing them for my course launches and my class launches. So I instead, like, one of the courses is called Career Pivot, 30 Days to Your Ideal Job. So that one, I'm assuming I could just do the same webinar. And, I built that out through an Amy Porterfield method. So that's a lot of slides.
Amy's slides are a lot different than what I do. I'm more like trying to create, this is actually how I teach storytelling, because I help people with their pitches. Like stage selling. Like, I try to create setting in webinars and seminars. Like, I want to, when you I tell this story on stage, which you probably remember this from where you heard me talk at Live Surge, was I was driving home one day. I was really depressed and I decided to go a different road home. And I was driving down the street and I looked over to my right and I saw a cow pasture. Now, these cows, I kind of slowed down to like watch these cows, right? Now, when I'm telling the story on stage, I have just a picture of cows behind me. I'm not going to put like 20 slides with different bullet points. Amy uses more words than any slide deck I've ever seen in my entire life, right? But like, I'm just using setting, backdrop, because I want them to be engrossed in the story. So that's totally valid from that. Let me ask you a question about your stage talk. Do you do a different stage talk every time you get on the stage?
I customize.
Or do you basically tell the same story? There you go.
I have about 5 different keynotes. I have 3 major ones that are all very different. The offers are pretty similar. I always add certain elements in there so I can sell my book. I can get a survey card. I can have a
for the city. You put in a little shout out to whatever city you're in, something like that. You're like me. It's like on the airplane on the way there, you're going to mess with the slides a little bit and then you're done. Right.
They don't love that, but yes.
But it's the same thing here. Like, you start with one, like you originally had an original keynote and then you expanded your repertoire. You take that keynote everywhere for the first, next 10 events. And then you add another one. So you got some more marketability. But I think webinars are even like better, because it won't be your last webinar you ever create, but you really need one webinar that you do consistently, probably at least once a month for the next 12 months, and just do that, because like, you've got to dial it in. It's just like your first keynote. On my first keynote that I ever did, the first time I ever planned it, I spent at least an hour on every minute of the talk. I went deep into I got to know this is going to resonate with people. It's like creating a keynote should not do it on your own. You need some help with that. But it's the same thing here. We take that webinar slide deck. Mine and the one I have in the community is just do this first. Just do this. I know this converts. Hundreds of people have used this to convert. Just do this right now. And then you can tweak it and craft it. And as your message slowly bends its orbit with these people that come in, and you learn every month from the 10 to 20, 30 new people that come in every month, you can bend that one talk. And then by the end of that first year, I would even recommend probably doing it like maybe twice a month if you can, just because even if it's like 2 showings. So like if you have a webinar day that's set up, like maybe do a webinar at like 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. just to get them done.
Well, that's what I've done. I've done like usually a 10 a.m. and then I will do a 6 p.m., and then after that, I'm
perfect
days on, but at least I can hit both sides. Yep. Usually when I do it,
Yep. So dial in on that, get that one really good. And then where it's like, if you show up and people show up, you're getting members, right? And that's because then eventually you'll be able to like evergreen that one where it's more automated. Yeah. And then you can work on a second one. Like I've got like 3 trainings. My first training is about ideas. That was my first one we did because we know that like you can't start an online business until you have an idea for an online business. It's just impossible. So that's the first thing we work on is the idea. I have another training that's all about sales funnels, right? So that's like my more advanced training, like when I'm going after more advanced people, like, because if you're studying sales funnels, you've probably already done a lot of the basics. You've got your idea and you're trying to figure out how to get it online. And then I've got one on audience growth, like marketing, like how do you get more people into your funnel that already exists? So I can cover 3 people, but I got the first one dialed in. It's actually pretty automated now. Whenever I go get interviewed, I usually have a video of that webinar to help people come up with their idea, and it's just online. So like they can go watch it, and then at the end of it, I can pitch something else. Okay, so it's kind of automated. So get really, really dialed in, get really, really good at that one. Now, here's another recommendation I would have. And this is a membership pro tip for everybody listening right now. Whatever time you personally want to do member calls, that's a great time to also schedule a webinar. Mm. So if you're like, I'm going to do webinars, I'm going to schedule member calls at 7 a.m., right? Well, at least one of your times should be 7 a.m. that people can pick from. Because then what happens is the people that come and join, for a fact they're going to love when your member calls are. Yeah. So it curates the better community into your thing. You can't do only one time because people have different schedules. Right. But man, it really can curate your audience to be like, these are all people that go to bed at 8 o'clock and wake up at 4. I would say that everywhere that would be on my sales page if I were you. I'd be like, hey, I'm Dell. I'm living my authentic life. And you know what I do every day? I go to bed at 8 p.m. I get up at 4 a.m. That's why I'm so productive. And then I hang out with my members at 7:30. And if you're living your authentic life and setting intentions every day, you should join us, right? That's like, I want to be Dell. Like, let's go. I'm going to the webinar at 7 o'clock. So that's another great time.
Horrify all my children who are in their 20s and they're like, Mom, this is so embarrassing. Do not tell people you go to bed when our grandparents go to bed. It's ridiculous. So.
You're up before them too. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's my great problem is I always get great intentions to get up at 4 a.m. and I do it for like 3 days in a row, but I forgot and went to bed at midnight. Right. So then I collapse on Thursday and it's just over, But like, I think that's your next marketing thing. How many people are on your email list, give or take? I mean, you don't have to be exact.
About 2,000. I keep scrubbing it. So I usually, after scrubbing, I stay at about 2,000.
So, okay. I would only scrub people who are undeliverable. Don't like scrub, like, are you on my list? Are you not on my list? Do you want to be here? Do you want to, what I do is I email more and let them unsubscribe naturally. It's a much more organic cleaning process. The only thing we remove is undeliverable emails. Yeah. But then ramp up your marketing a little bit, maybe email a couple times a week, maybe get into like this webinar once a month cycle. Also to like take advantage of some sales and stuff like Father's Day, 4th of July, like try to attach some things to what's happening in people's lives. Yeah. As you're going through that, like you can do all kinds of play on words. Like I always do a freedom sale, like, every year, because 4th of July is all about freedom and you want freedom in your life. So you can spend the same thing kind of off that. But get into a consistent webinar schedule. I think with your unfair advantage is your speaking background and you have an email list right now, 2,000 people, you convert 10% of that. That's 200 members. Yeah. There's probably 10% of those people that would love to be in your membership right now. And then you're making $20,000 a month. So how do we convert those 2,000 people as fast as possible with our greatest skill sets? Your greatest, most refined skill set is you have an offer that converts. We know that now for sure. And you have speaking. You converted them at a speaking event. So why not really hammer webinars and focus on that, spend some ad money on it, and get people to those webinars and take multiple swings. People always do a webinar. They're like, it only got this many people. I'm like, okay. But I'm always like, how many people came? 100. Oh, cool. That's a great number. How many big is your email list? 2,000. I'm like, yeah, you've got to find the other 1,900, have another webinar. Maybe they just couldn't come like that day. So like, I think if you just focus on webinars consistently, I mean, you could be adding 20 to 50 members a month with your email campaigns plus some webinars. And it's not there's no strategy or tactic or trick I'm going to give you, Dale. You know how it works. Roll up your sleeves and do this and do it consistently. And you're going to see amazing things happen in your membership site.
So I have a question about the getting this one webinar. So I have right now 2 webinars that have worked well, that have sold either. So I have a boundary boot camp class that I run regularly, but I also turned it into a course, which is in the membership. Then I have this career pivot course. I'll do cohorts with it. And that's also in the membership. So but they're still kind of specific. This is not all about how to elevate your authentic personality in your leadership or in your work, or how to, dial into your purpose and all these different things. It's more specific. Should I create a third webinar and then kind of sprinkle these other 2 in, but have them lead to the membership instead of those classes or courses?
Yeah. You want all roads lead to the membership. That's the first rule. All roads have to lead to the membership. If you start fragmenting what you're selling, and you can create campaigns that sell courses first and do that, but like it's easier if they're already in there, just do that. I would probably create a new presentation for this.
Okay.
And it would be kind of like, I'm just making up a sentence here, but it's like I would combine all the things in one, and I would say like how to live your authentic self, how to set better boundaries so you can live your authentic self and improve your career. Okay. Because everybody wants to learn how to set boundaries. That's a good thing, right? And then what I would do is I would take your best story from your best talk, period. And that's your authentic story. You've got to tell that in the first 15 to 20 minutes of this thing. And through that, you're going to talk about how you learned how to set boundaries. Through that, you're going to talk about how you found your career and what you're good at by helping your daughter through this thing, like the story you told, right? And then there's 3 points in every good presentation, right? You know what I'm saying? I usually call them it's like a bodita. That's what I say. Because of that, I did this. It's like you're this action, right? It's like I'm coming out and everything leads to the next thing. And what's going to happen is you can talk about what courses are inside your webinar through 3 additional stories. So like you can say something simple like, I had to set this boundary with these other parents that I wanted my child to be facing consequences for this. They wanted to sweep it under the rug. No, that was a boundary. And that was kind of the inspiration for my boundary boot camp. You just throw away line. And then you say, and that's what made me discover that I could figure out, how to turn my why into authentic action. And I made this career pivot where I actually did something else, right? So we're just constantly, I call it a story pitch. We're stacking stories. First your story, then a next story, then a next story, then you kind of unpack the stories. And by the end of it, you can say now, when you make your pitch, you can say, and inside my membership, you get my boundary boot camp. So you'll learn how to do boundaries. In my membership, you get my career pivot course. In my membership, you get this authentic XYZ. And then you can do like a true value stack where like this course I've sold for this. How much have you sold the boundary boot camp course before? How much have you sold that for?
That went on sale for $297. It's $397 now.
Okay, so it's $297, $397. Now you can say, but it's in the membership for $100 a month. And then your career pivot course, that's worth this. I've actually sold it for this, but now it's in the membership. You get access to it all for $97 a month. Cancel anytime. So like that, I would recraft this webinar. It's very specific to this thing and do story stacking to be able to unpack why they need the things. Like you don't have to brag about your trainings. You just talk about the results of the trainings, and then you lead to the story pitch where you pitch it into the thing.
Okay. Yeah. I've done them at 45 minutes to leave at least 15 for Q&A. And then if they go over, do you feel like that's the sweet spot, or what do you think the timing should be?
I actually think the sweet spot for a webinar is to block off 2 hours because, and here's why. You're never going to probably use the whole 2 hours, but 2 hours feels like when I say, hey, come to my webinar, it's from 8 to 10 p.m., then it feels really like, wow, that's really over delivering with value. It's not really rushed. It gives me a little more time to flesh out the story part of my presentation, which is the most important part. Like if you don't spark emotion, like love, hate, fear, anger, sadness, happiness, jokes, if you can't do that, you're never going to get them to the pitch anyway. So like it lets me kind of flesh that out, take my time, entertain, have some fun. It lets me get the pitch out around the hour mark, and then I can hang out for I'll stay on the Q&A as long as it takes, but it never takes more than 30 minutes to an hour. So I usually block off 2 hours for webinars. I want to give myself time to breathe. There's nothing that makes people feel less trust than when the speaker is rushing. Like, you ever seen a speaker walk out and they're like, well, I had a 45-minute talk, guys, but they only gave me 30 minutes and they cut my time. And, but I'm going to try to squeeze everything in. I'm 5 minutes over. Oh my gosh, I'm 5 minutes over my arbitrary time that I set for myself. You ever seen people do that, right? Like, or you maybe have been that person in the past?
I was going to say, I think you're getting in there too. They're right. Like, you got 20 minutes. I'm like, 20
right. And coming from the speaking world, it's like you have as much time as you want. There's no arbitrary thing. But you do need to have a bumpers down the bowling alley for your people so they know when to get on and when to get off. So yeah, I usually do 2 hours just to make sure that I've got plenty of time to talk to people, answer questions. I also have a Q&A bank of frequently asked questions. I have about 40 questions in a spreadsheet. So it's also too, like, if someone's not asking questions, I can just go into, and then they're actually questions that have been asked on other webinars. So I can say, like, I got a question one time from Christy. I got a question one time from Bob. So I can answer. I want to hit the questions that I want to answer anyway. Q&A is not necessarily you do take the live questions because those are people wanting to buy. But also too, I need that 30, 45 minutes to get through all of my frequently asked questions. I definitely want you to hear the answers to, Yeah. I've got buddies though, man. I got a buddy. I'm speaking on one of his things in June. He wanted me to come on. I'm kind of bundling up some stuff with him, and he's got a 6-hour training on a Saturday. It's like I'm doing an hour and a half. Yeah. So it's like, there's no right answer to that. It's just what gets people across the line. But $97 a month is not a hard pitch, and hour and a half, 2 hours. It's super simple and not rushed and more comfortable.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Shane. I was such a skeptic when I was at the event where I met you and I met Steven, but I felt like I needed to move ahead. I kind of had to humble myself and what I was feeling. And this has been the best decision I've ever made. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for that. I'm so happy because I remember me and you talked a lot. And I remember when I was talking to you at the event, and we basically, all the people in the room, we were like, Dale's a baller. We just have to get her to do this thing. Right. And it's been a joy to watch your work and your efforts and see them paying off. And, and we have a testimonials thread, or a kind of a success story thread, where the team will drop when they hear things. Cause there's so many people in our community and like coaching program, like we don't all hear everything that's happening. And we're like, Dale's on it. Members are flowing. We're like, we knew it. Let's go. Now we just got to get you to the next level. So listen, Dale, thank you so much for coming on today and having this call with me. And, thank you so much for being transparent with your business and your life, because I know there's thousands of people out there that learned a lot from this, and they're going to be able to go out and they're going to find success, and they're going to be able to step into that authentic God-given gift that they have to be able to start an online business. But I know you do a lot of great work too, and I want to give you a chance to tell everybody about it. So if somebody wants to reach out to you, where can they find you online?
Yeah, the website is the main place, yourauthenticpersonality.com. We've got lots of resources, free quizzes to understand if you're wearing a personality mask, lots of different tests and resources. You can find Boundary Bootcamp there, because I've never met anybody who came to the planet with good boundaries. I talk about this just because I had none, but I say you either have the reactive yes or you have the reactive no, because there's some people who are like, I have great boundaries. I'm like, yes, and you have no friends. So that is not good either.
That's a great quote. Oh yeah, but there's consequences to the boundaries. Yours are, you have spiked heads on the top of your boundaries. That's not good. That's going to keep people away. Awesome. Right. All right. So the website is, one more time. Say the website one more time.
Yourauthenticpersonality.com. And we're, of course, on Instagram under my name, Dale Wilsher, and Facebook and LinkedIn. So I would love to hear from y'all if this resonates at all. So, I'm invested in everyone's potential.
All right, y'all, that wraps up my interview with Dale Wilsher, an amazing member of the Flip Lifestyle community. I remember when I met Dale at one of our seminars, one of our live events. She was so skeptical. She was like, really? You're just going to put all this stuff in there? We're going to have a membership. And you really think anyone's going to join a membership for $100 a month? And looking up now, she just launched a few weeks ago. She's already got 15 members. She's got a nice little system and a nice little process. She's going to go out to get more. And think how close she is to creating $120,000 a year revenue, right? She's already got 15 members. She only needs 85 more members. And she's got a run rate of $120,000 in her membership. She's going to be expanding her reach. Right now, she's like one-on-one, time intensive. I want to make a bigger impact out in the world. She's got an opportunity to do that now. She's got an opportunity to connect people, or all going through life wearing masks for a bunch of people we don't even like or even know. And she's going to put 100 authentic, like-minded people in the same space where they can connect with each other. And maybe they don't have enough other authentic people in their life. So she's creating that space for them. And that is the power of online business. That is the power of the Flipped Lifestyle Blueprint. That's the power of the Flipped Lifestyle community. So if you would like to find and use your God-given gifts to go out and start your online business, if you'd like to learn how to tell your story, we help people do that as well. And we help people to put their products and services out into the marketplace through membership websites. All you need is 100 people to pay you $100 a month. You can make $10,000 a month. $120,000 a year. Head over to fliplifestyle.com. Make sure you're listening to the podcast all week. We have a ton of free resources that you can use to get started right now. So head over to the site. But for right now, man, that is all the time that we have for this week. So thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, get out there, take action. Y'all do whatever it takes to flip your life. I'll see you then.